So how much time do you think we have?
For what?
We're gonna be talking to you.
No, you have time. I don't know. As long as you...
I was just curious. I was kind of you had like 2 minutes, then you had to run or
No, I
whatever.
got like maybe like 20,
Oh,
20,
that's
30
plenty.
minutes.
That's plenty. I don't know if it's gonna take
Yeah.
that long. We'll see though. I don't know. So future reference, people on YouTube. This is IAmMagic. He has been a top player on Age of Mythology for what, like ever, or what would you say?
Well, since I was 13 and now I'm 33, so it's been a while.
20 years?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, be it like I took a lot of breaks. Like I would play when I was 13, 14, then quit for 2 years, come back, quit for 2 years, come back, and that went on for a while.
Huh. Um, when did you start to get good, would you say?
I think the well, when I was 12, I think I started playing online multiplayer,
Okay.
and I sucked. I was like 1600, 1700. I was really bad. And then I don't know what switched, but the year after, I just went from like 1700 to like rank one on the ladder in like less than a span of six months. I think it was a quick trajectory all the way up until top one. So yeah,
Okay.
it's funny actually because everyone would say, and I think like the veterans who are watching or listening to this interview right now would say like back in the day, everyone was like, it's not him playing. He must have somebody playing under his account, or he
Oh
must be
wow.
cheating. And that was a tragic time for me because I was a 13-year-old, and this is before like social media and all that stuff that we have nowadays. But I would get bullied on like I would get bullied on back in the day. It was called ESO where we used to play,
Mm-hmm.
and on the forums they'd be like, this guy's a map hacker, this guy's a cheater, someone's playing his account. And that's a lot to take when you're a 13-year-old kid.
What was
But
the age bracket of the pros at the time, would you say?
I think it was like, I mean, between, like, I think early 20s, 17 to
So,
like early 20s, yeah.
so you were basically like a child prodigy.
At the time, I think I was the
That's actually
youngest.
kind of
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So what is your like background? So how did you get into Age of Mythology originally?
I just played single player. I remember my dad bought me a used computer at one point when I was a kid. And I was Age of Empires 1 was already preloaded onto the computer. So I would just play in the scenario editor, make like really cool looking cities and stuff like that, and then slowly, as time went on, I would transition to the newer games as it came out. And yeah, and that's how my story began.
So you know how well, obviously there's different versions of the original Age of Mythology. There's Age of Mythology. There's the Titans expansion. What are your thoughts on the original versus the Titans when the expansion came out and stuff like that?
Well, when the original was around, I think I was still really young. I mean, I was really bad at the time. I didn't really understand what was going on. So it's hard for me to like, I mean, if you're looking at it today, what do I think is better, or
I
what's the
guess looking
question really?
back on it, then what would you say was? Do you think Titans was a good expansion? Do you think it was just okay? Do you think they shouldn't have added it in the first place?
No, I liked it. I mean, I don't think it was good for competitive play. Like a lot of the top players that were playing at the time just left as soon as the expansion came out because like no one was happy with auto queue at the time, and there was a super unit which was the Titans. People didn't like that either. And then they made the game easier with Atlanteans, where you don't need as many villagers, and there was a lot of changes that deterred a lot of competitive play.
Do you think
But
those changes were bad for the game, or do you just think that people like pros at the time just didn't want to change or adapt to the new stuff?
mm, I don't. I think it was good for casuals, bad for the competitive scene. Like even, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I think I was able to get top one, right? Because the game was a lot easier for players like me. I didn't have like the mechanics of these older generation of players that played Age of Empires 2 and were familiar with hotkeys and stuff like that. I grew up with auto queue, so I was able to focus on my decision making, and I personally think the game was more fun when you focused on your decision making rather than just sheer mechanical ability. So
I kind of agree with you there as well. So you said so Age was your first the one Age that it was on your computer preload was your first RTS.
Yeah, Age of Empires 1, a single player, never played multiplayer.
What were your thoughts on that? But when you switched from Age 1 to Age of Mythology, was it like a revelation type of thing? Were you like, oh, this is a little better? Did you like the mythology aspect more than just the ancient aspect of the thing?
Like Age 1 was where I started, but it was very short-lived because as soon as when I was playing Age 1, Age of Empires 2 was already out, so I convinced my dad to let me buy Age of Empires 2, and I was playing that most of the time, just single player, just making like really cool cities and playing versus the AI. Um, and then Age of Mythology got released, and I tried it single player, and I didn't like it at the time. I went back to Age of Empires 2. I thought Age of Empires 2 single player was a lot more fun. Um, but then eventually I started playing online on multiplayer, and I think the multiplayer experience really sealed the deal for Age of Mythology for me.
What
I
made you go
preferred it.
back to Age of Mythology? You said you went back to Age 2. Why did you pick up Age of Mythology again?
I'm not entirely sure. Like I was so young at the time, I don't really recall the exact reasons why I did what I did. But something drew me back. I think it was multiplayer, just playing online on ESO. Because on Age of Empires 2, everyone was playing on the zone, and I don't know, I was technically not inclined, and as a result, I didn't know how to like play online on Age of Empires 2, and Age of Mythology was just easier. So
Gotcha.
I think that might have been the key.
All right, so what time you said you were 13 to now? Can you give me like a general thing? How is your style of play? How is your gaming journey evolved from then to now? Like as a player of Age of Mythology in general.
When I was a 13-year-old kid, like I don't know how I got where I got. I didn't have a good understanding of RTS, but I guess I was just good at just decision making in general, knowing where to send my army, knowing what to do. But now I'm a lot more experienced in RTS. I understand like the mathematical side of things. I understand what it is exactly that allows me to secure victory, what it is that, you know, causes me to lose. When I was a kid, when I was 13 years old, I'd pick up a strategy and then just execute it, try to make good decisions, and sometimes I didn't even know why I lost. Like for example, if I lost a game, I would just think, my army was inferior to the opponent's army. I didn't realize that, he had a town center making bills, that he had a 20 bill lead on me the whole game, or, what exactly caused me to lose.
Gotcha.
So I think it's that, yeah.
Okay. So what's the biggest difference from when you were 13 to today? What's the biggest thing that you've changed in your game style or gameplay that has allowed you to become, the amazing player you are now?
Mm, I think I mean, it's sad to say, but I don't think my gameplay has changed that much from when I was a 13-year-old kid. I think it's still very feel oriented. I think there's different types of RTS players. You have like very creative players, and then you have very mechanically gifted players, and then you have some players that are just good at decision making,
So
right?
you mostly run off of instinct.
Yeah, I would say so.
So that means
Um,
there are things not just in Age of Mythology and RTS games in general. One of the absolute hardest things, this isn't talked about a lot for top RTS players to do, is say there's an engagement about to happen on screen. You have a lot of population of a certain amount of units. Your opponent has a lot of structures, units, defensive things on the map, and for a top player, you can look at that and be like, okay, I'll come out on top here, or okay, maybe I shouldn't engage here and come back and fight, later or in a different area. That's one thing that I think for RTS players in general that people really lack on. They'll just throw their armies into certain battles and just hope they kind of come out on top. But I really think that players like yourself and other top players can look at an engagement before it ever happens, and you kind of have a good idea of where that engagement's going to go and what's going to happen.
oh yeah, I think that's the one thing that gives people an edge where nobody really realizes that. I'll give you an example of exactly what you just said right now. I mean, there's a player, and a lot of our AoM players know about him. His name is Chemo, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Chemo tells me like I'm the worst player that he can learn something from, and I don't take it as an insult. I take it as a compliment. He says when he plays somebody like Mista, he can learn things from Mista. He can learn things from Matrius or all these other great players. But when he plays versus me, there's nothing really to learn. There's the only reason I'm winning is because I'm making better decisions, moving my army in slightly better ways than him, and knowing when to take engagements. And that's not something that you can replicate or copy. So
Yeah.
that's exactly what you're saying as well.
And I feel like that also comes to the amount you play. That's something you get just through sheer game volume. The more games you play, the better you're going to be at making those decisions, I think.
Absolutely, for sure.
Okay.
And it's another funny story actually. There was another player in the Age of Mythology community. His name was Kyumaku, and
Okay.
a lot of old veterans know him.
How long ago did he play?
I think like 5 or 6 years ago. He was never like a top tier player, but he was a good player, and he was very mathematical. Like he would make very structured decision making, very like flowcharty, and he would
Okay.
have like builds and stuff like that.
I know someone just like that in another RTS game. That's kind of funny.
So me and him would play a lot. We would practice, and he would have conversations with me at the end of the game, and me and him were complete opposites because I'm playing completely on instinct and feel, and he's playing on mathematics, right?
That's actually really
And
cool.
yeah, so then he would never understand me. He's like, why did you do this? And then I'm thinking to myself, why did I do that? Because I personally don't even know myself. I just did it in the game. And then I thought about it afterwards. It was the right move, but I didn't personally know at the time why I was doing what I was doing. And then he just joked. He said a joke. He's like, I didn't know I was playing with a mindless player.
It's funny because that's like a perfect example of, well, in his mind, on paper, it should have went a certain way, but you, through just sheer will and just knowing how the game works, all the little nuances, you knew that engagement was going to go in your favor. And that's kind of funny because, again, when you look at it, you break it down to just simple numbers and math. Sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes just having instinct can win engagements where, maybe it shouldn't have panned out. Looking at it from a statistical point of view.
Yeah, agreed. I don't think you can if you want to play at the peak level, I don't think you can consciously make decisions fast enough to, compete. I think you have to be operating at a subconscious level, and that's where the top players really come in, right? That's where like the 1% is dictated. It's not based on conscious decision making. You don't have time in the game to, like you said, there's like so many different variables on the map. You don't have time to consciously say, I have this here, I have this here, and I have this here. You have to do it in a split second and just make an instinctual call.
And other things on that when it comes to instinct. So, just like in any RTS game, Age of Mythology is no different. When it comes to scouting and knowing what your opponent's doing versus just assuming what your opponent's doing, the top players, they have an edge there. Like, you've seen these scenarios a million times. Even without scouting, people will be watching games like, well, how does he know he's doing this? How does he know he has a dock there? How does he know that he's going for these units? Why is he already building counters for things he hasn't seen? Well, it's because you've seen these scenarios. You've been in these spots thousands of times, and you already know what your opponent's probably going to. You might be wrong, right? But it's more than likely you know what's happening, what your opponent's doing, even if you're not constantly scouting that person.
100%. I remember there was one game I played on First Mista. This is back in the day when I was near my peak, right? I was, I think, 26 or 27, and he moved. This is on Anatolia. He was Zeus, I think, and I was like Isis or something. And he moved his scout into my base, and then the logical pattern for the scout entering the base is scout certain things like the gold mine where the TC is, where the wood is, and then you leave, right? But then he moved his scout in an abnormal way where he double tracked it and he went and checked a couple things that he shouldn't have checked. And I knew immediately, even before I scouted. Yeah, I knew something was off. And the only thing that can be off is he's gonna rush me on land. So I knew that was gonna happen, and he did do that. And it's funny, even on Marsh, I played Mista one time. He was Zeus, and I was, I think, Isis or Set. And I went to second TC and I immediately went to Rax. I don't know why I did it, but I knew he was going to rush me. I didn't scout it. I didn't see anything that was happening on the map, but I just knew that he was going to rush me. And then even he was surprised. He's like, how the hell did you know this, right? Are you watching the stream?
Now, can you
I'm
explain
like, no.
the significance of that? So, like, what would normally happen there as to what actually happened in terms of, so you threw your barracks down, but what would you have done different? What's done, I guess, normally in that scenario if you didn't think that rush was coming? Why is that different, and why is that significant?
Normally, what I would do is probably just like try to harass with my myth unit and gather intel that way while I'm going up to heroic. But here, what I did was I put the racks right by like I blocked the TC pathing with the racks, right? I knew like normally no one would do that. It's just it doesn't seem like a logical thing to do, but I just did it at that point in time.
That's awesome.
It's really interesting because like at the time you don't know why you're doing certain things, and then I look back at the game and think about it after the game's over, and I'm like, holy shit, why did I do that? What did I know? And
Kind of like
I
you're
personally,
watching yourself from above yourself, like an out of body moment.
yeah, but like I don't have that same instinct I think I once had. Like as you get older and you have other responsibilities in life,
Do you
and
think it's because are you playing less, or what do you think the reasoning is for that?
I'm definitely playing less. There's no doubt about that. But you see, I don't have the killer instinct that I once had when I
Mm-hmm.
was I think in my 20s, because I think at the time the only thing I wanted in life was to be the best, right? That
Yep.
was my primary objective. Everything else came second. But now that's not my primary objective. Like there's other things happening in my life that are more important. So like
Absolutely.
it's different. Like if you want to be the best and you want to compete with the best, you have to have like there can't be anything else in your life. You have to
Mm-hmm.
be completely driven around the game itself.
Do you think that for Age of Mythology Retold, that even if it's just for a short while, you may get that drive back?
I think so. I feel like it's already coming. And
That's really good.
you know the one weird thing is like when you start becoming a competitive player again and you start and maybe it's just me, all right? Maybe other people are normal, but I become competitive in other things in my life as well. Like things that I would like. I was playing, for example, I was playing tennis with my brother-in-laws and my family the other day, and I remember I told my wife this too. Like 2 months ago, I wouldn't care if who won or who lost. It was just a game. But now I just want to win, like no matter what, and losing bothers me, and
Well,
that's how it was. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was to say the truth is, I know exactly what you're saying. It's because to be the best at something, especially something with a big player pool, big person pool, and whatever in real life sport doesn't matter. The truth is, you probably have to be, at least in your mind, assertive and aggressive, right? I mean, I'm
Hmm.
sure there are those rare occasions where that's not true, but I think that you have to be in a mindset where, losing is just it kind of disgusts you in a way. You know what I'm talking about? Like
Yeah, absolutely.
losing, it has to disgust you almost even sometimes more than winning does make you happy, right? And that's how I've looked at other things, sports in real life and um games in the past. And it's not just me. I know there's other people that losing is I guess I don't know what the wording is on that, but losing is worse than not winning, if that makes sense.
Oh, 100%. There's no doubt about that. You're absolutely right.
And while you're in that mindset, you're right. It's gonna leak into everything else because it's gonna be hard. I mean, I'm sure there are some people that can probably do it, but to be able to sit down at the game, whatever game it may be, and turn that on, is harder than to just simply be that way while 24/7. Does that make sense? So instead of having to sit down and turn on that aggressiveness, that that killer instinct, if you have
Hmm.
that 24/7 from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep, it's going to be easier when you're doing that thing, whatever it may be. Age of Mythology Retold or another, uh, you know, strategy game or anything else, a sport. It doesn't matter. If you're constantly in that state, then you don't have to switch it on and off. You can just be that person, be that, that aggressive.
For sure. I think you're right. 100%. Yes, actually, just to speak on that as well, like I remember when I was younger, and I told you that like the game was one of the only things that I had in my life that I was aspiring to be. And I lost one time to a player named Sensui, and I lost really badly, like 0-4.
The fact that you still remember the person's name, that's yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We had a history, so I know him. And I even know, like, I came home from work, it was like 5 or 6, and then I thought I'd play some games. And normally I would beat this guy easily, but this guy beat me like 0-4. I mean, and then he trash talked me after the game
Oh, I
too.
bet that drove you hard, didn't it?
I couldn't sleep that night. I
Yep.
swear to you, like I couldn't sleep. The only thing that was on my mind is how badly I was gonna beat him the next day. That's the only.
That's insane.
I think I slept like 3 hours that night, and then the next day I tried to get a match with him. Obviously, he ducked me for like 2 weeks after that, but then then I finally got a match with him, and I made him pay.
That's actually amazing. I have a similar story when it comes to. I used to play a game called Command and Conquer Tiberium Wars,
Hmm.
and I had this person. They beat me. It was like my first RTS in a while, and I played it. And like I played with these group of people. We all like there was like 4 of us. We all like took turns playing, watching each other, and like I was like the worst person in the group, and like. The extended version of that game was called Command and Conquer Kane's Wrath. It was like the expansion for it, and I didn't talk to those guys for like 6 months. And the only thing on my mind was I have to be better than them. I have to be better than them. And it's funny because my goal wasn't to be the best player in the game. It was simply to be better than them, right? Well, not only did I become my drive to beat them caused me to be better than them. I didn't even realize at the time that I'd become the best player in that entire game, at least on the version that I was playing at the time.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, it was okay. Again, for those listening, get ready to laugh. It was on the Xbox version, but it does. There's still thousands of players and all that, and at the time, and it was cool that. It wasn't my goal to be the best player on the game, but it happened just through the sheer loss and just I guess that drive that you're talking about that you're 0-4 against the exact same thing. It's just the thought of losing to them when I talk to them again would make me it made me gag. Like, and the very first time I ended up playing, I hadn't talked to them in a long time. I played one of them on ladder, and then I beat them. And this is the part that hurt me the most: is I beat them, and then I told them who I was because my gamer tag had changed. They didn't even remember who I was.
Wow, that's amazing.
That kind of broke me.
That's funny. Yeah.
Eventually we got into a party, we talked, and eventually they did. But I thought that was kind of funny.
They're probably shocked. It's like,
oh, they couldn't believe it. It was a completely different person, a completely different player. I was playing, like as you said, I was playing for fun. I didn't have that instinct at all. But I think that was like the trigger moment for me, right? That was like okay, time to get that killer instinct going. And then I did oh my God, I would stay up the wee hours of the morning, man, on school nights. It was so bad for me. It was so bad. I was sacrificing my physical health just because I wanted to make sure I was better than those guys. But enough about me. So going back into Age of Mythology here, what is your favorite civilization of all time and why? Now, this is for the old game. And if that changes to the new game, why?
I personally liked Isis in the old game. And
that was my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I know this sounds really silly, but I prefer. I wanted to like be good at something that I thought was very difficult, right? And I always thought Isis was one of the hardest civilizations to play. And a lot of people are going to disagree with me here, but I think the fact that you don't have that much aggressive potential early on in the game, and any civ that has very little the potential for aggression early on is much harder to play. And defensive styles, in my opinion, are a lot more difficult than aggressive styles in Age of Mythology, per se. And that's one of the reasons what led me to wanting to play Isis. And then, so like in Retold, I think I'm leaning more towards the Greeks. I don't know if I like the new design of like Isis or Egyptian in general. They're a lot more aggressive early on. They have a lot more aggressive potential, which is fun, but I'm more of a defensive, get ready to muster your resources and your economy and everything you need, and then kill the person as fast as you possibly can. I don't know if Isis might be the civ for me right now. I'm not entirely sure. It's too early to tell.
Which of the Greeks I'm assuming you played a bit, so which of the Greeks would you say would you play?
I think I'm leaning towards Zeus right now.
A lot of people do.
Yeah.
I think that, I don't know the numbers on that obviously, but just from the spectator standpoint, Zeus was picked so much.
Yeah. I think it's also like, it's contrary to what I said, but I think Zeus is a lot easier to play, right? It's just more simplistic, especially from people that are coming from different games, Age of Empires 4 or Age of Empires 2. It's just very straightforward, right? So I think that's one of the reasons why it leads to more people playing and spectating Zeus. So,
and also, Zeus is probably the most well-known god on the game, right? Like just the image alone. It's also on the box art, so it makes sense as well. True. Funnily enough, the reason I picked Isis, not as cool a story as yours, very simple. I was losing a lot, checked the ladder, number 1 guy was Isis. Then I just copied him. That was it. That was
actually
it.
true. That's true. That happened to me too when I was 12, 13 years old. That's exactly what I did as well.
I was just losing. I'm like, well, what's this guy doing different? Who's the best guy? What's he playing? And that's what I did. That was it.
Yeah,
I started. That wasn't the reason I stayed playing Isa, but that's the reason I picked her in the first place.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think a lot of people do that. Yeah.
Okay, so for Age of Mythology and then Age of Mythology Retold, maybe again these could be different. What are your favorite strategies to do that you use in high-level play? Or is there anything special? Because I know some people like to do, crazy rushes. They like to do either wall up. They play eco until later in the game. What is your thing? What do you like to do?
But you know how we were talking about different stylistic matchup or different stylistic characteristics of different players?
Yeah.
I think the style that I have, which is an instinctual style, doesn't really have one specific strategy that he would prefer over the others, right? Mm-hmm. He looks at the map, he adapts to what he sees, and then he plays, right? So I don't have any preferential strategies.
Okay.
If I did, actually, maybe it would be leaning towards getting a second TC, and it's really boring. Economic route, yeah. Okay. Because the economic route allows you to adapt to, it allows you more time to adapt to what your opponent is doing. So you have that, but yeah.
And as an instinctive player like yourself, I guess the longer the game goes, kind of the better for you, and the more things that you get to watch your opponent do. That way, you can make decisions based on that. And you can make your own decisions that they have to adapt to. I mean, that's kind of good for you because of your play style. I feel like the longer the game goes, the better it is for you.
I 100% agree. I think the early game players, there's a lot of players who are very, very strong early on, and those are usually the mathematical, the build order type players that have everything structured out and flow charted.
Exactly, because they have
edge.
everything as quickly, they're doing their strategy, doing as quick as possible. And the other thing is, the players that you're talking about, these build order players, ones that do quick rushes and things like that, they do these things hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. And the reason they keep doing these rushes hundreds of times is because even though they're doing the same build every time, it's not the same reaction from their opponents every time. And so what happens is they start in their mind, I mean, maybe they're writing it down, I don't know. But in their mind, they're seeing, okay, this thing, I'm struggling versus this. I'll just play against this 100 more times and I'll figure out so when this player does this to stop me, I do this next. And if they do that, I do this next. So they have this one route that they take, right? But it's got hundreds of branches. They know what to do when certain things happen or certain things stop their rush or it gets pushed in a different direction. So that I understand from their point of view what they're doing and what makes those kinds of players special. And also the kind of player you are, being an instinctive player.
Mm-hmm.
Two different kinds of the spectrum.
Yeah, for sure. You nailed it. That's exactly it. Yeah.
So in terms of besides economy, is there anything like you said? I guess you said you played Isis in the old game. Is there anything like you specifically went for a specific minor gods? Is there any types of things that you would like to get out and go for, maybe to harass, or maybe there's a specific play you want to go for later in the game, but try to end it or whatever?
Yeah, I think based on what I've heard from the people that I play versus, is that I'm more of a pusher. Right, rather than a raider or
So you gather up that one big push that and you're just ready to go. And
then the comments I would hear is you make one mistake or you make a bad move or something like that, and this guy's just going to kill you. That's how they would describe me back in Age of Mythology, right?
Yep.
So I would say that's what the public persona of me was back in the day. I personally don't think that. I just think that I do what I think is right at the time, but I don't have any preferential minor gods or any preferential play. It's just what I think is correct.
And again, I think we're going to roll back to this. You as an instinctive player, picking that moment, that specific moment for that initial push to start your big engagement, you're going for the win, is critical, right? I mean, for that style of play and for you to be really good instinctively, I think that's really important for that kind of play, because you're not just doing engagements here and there, trying to get a little bit here and there, a little bit, with raids and whatnot. You're picking your moment and you're just going with it and trying to get, to slowly crush your opponent basically, or quickly, depending on how it goes.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's really cool. Next thing, how do you, it could be different for other players, how do you prepare for tournaments and other high stake, maybe show matches, 1v1s for money, that kind of thing?
I think it all depends on, in Age of Empires 4, I played in some really big tournaments, and I think how I prepared was I just messaged the best players that I had access to, and I did a lot of custom games with them. And I did custom games. I think a lot of people watching might know them. It was like Marine Lord, Puppy Paw, Wham, and 10 at the very end of my career. Played with all of those guys, and I tried to get as many games as I could with the best players. But I noticed, like, this is a little off topic, but there are certain types of players you don't want to really practice with, in my opinion. Like, for
Chaos
example,
players.
not even chaos, but like the instinctual players like myself. I wouldn't want to practice. I feel like Marine Lord was a little bit towards my style. I don't think he was as good of a practice partner as Puppy Paw and Wham, because Puppy Paw and Wham, they had it all together. They knew what they were doing. They had really good builds and strategies and stuff. Marine Lord would just like, I don't know, he would adapt to whatever you're doing and just kill you, right?
Yep.
There's not much you can learn from that. So like, I just picked the right partners to play with.
Gotcha. So, has there ever been a time where you knew who you were going to go up against, say, like not a tournament, but maybe like a 1v1 show match or whatever you want to call it, and you knew their play style, and so when you went to practice, maybe you asked your opponent to pick a certain map or a certain god that you could practice against? Has that ever happened, or it's just random customs?
I think it's just random customs. Like I was in Red Bull for the Age of Empires 4 tournament, right? And I know it's not Age of Mythology, but just an example. I was playing Marine Lord in the very first round,
Wow.
and I was seed number 16, the lowest seed of the tournament, and he was seed number 1, the highest seed of the tournament. And I knew I was playing, and we all the matchups already got like like they already told us who we were playing, and I didn't have any. There's no way to prepare for him, right? Because he's just good all around. So all I did was I would just get as good as I possibly can, and then just get ready to face him. There was nothing special that I did. Even as right now, I'm like, I know Red Bull is going to be coming up for Age of Mythology, like in the beta and the stress test. I didn't really practice any specific strategies or any like one god. I would just practice on becoming a good, better overall player as a
Okay.
whole. Yeah.
So
And I think, sorry to add to that,
yeah.
right? I think one thing that I've noticed in a lot of players is even during custom games, they're just trying to win. Like, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you're just, it's considered practice. Their main focus is to win at all costs. But I think that's where I veer off a little bit. My main purpose in practice custom games is not to win. Even when I'm playing ladder, it's not always just to win the game. Sometimes it's about trying new things, making a lot of mistakes, and then coming back from those mistakes, right? Because anybody can win when they have an edge, but imagine when you're at the very bottom, you're about to die, and then you come back through good sheer decision making and mechanical prowess, and then you win from that point on, right? That's something that
Yep.
yeah, that's not something everyone can do, and that's not something you can always practice. So it's better not to always be, having a really good edge early on and then practicing from the top, from being at a heightened position. Sometimes it's good to practice from being at the bottom.
It also takes a very specific mindset to be able to do that, and that's again, this is one of those things we talked about. The killer instinct. This is a little different though, but like when someone's down and their back's against the wall, a lot of people they just break or give up, or they'll just slowly let themselves dwindle because they feel like they can't come back or whatever. But someone at the top, I mean, even when your back's against the wall, your brain is still going 100 miles an hour, right? You're just firing off all these scenarios. Well, if he does this, I can do this to make maybe come back. If he makes this mistake, I can capitalize and do this. If I can hit him with this raid in the back, maybe I can hit his economy enough to be below mine. Maybe if I do pull back with just a few units, maybe he'll pull his entire army back, giving me time to breathe, push back out. There's a lot of things like that. Most players, again, if you're like you said, where you do that one big push and you're in their face, that makes people panic, man. You got one of the best players, if not the best player at whatever time it may have been, in your face with a huge army. You're not thinking, okay, let me go raid Ezekiel.
Yeah.
I'm serious. Like I'm telling you, what they're thinking is, I need to survive this. I'm not going to go bother raiding. He'll just stop me. Even if you can't, let's just say you don't even have the ability to stop them from raiding you. Just having the mindset of, okay, well, I'm versus a top player. There's no point. I mean, this guy's obviously not going to make the mistake at this point of letting me hit his economy or hit him here or build something secret in the corner there. They're not thinking that. It takes a very special person to be like, okay, well, they're here. I still can do this, this, and this, and possibly win.
Oh, for sure. And it's a really funny story as well. I remember, and this is the greatest comeback I think I've ever made in my RTS career.
Okay.
I was playing Atlantean, and I was playing versus, I think, a set player. His name was Ridu, right?
Which Atlantean, do you remember?
I think it was Aranos. It was Aranos.
Okay.
Right? And we were playing, and he villager rushed me at like 4 or 5 minutes into the game, right?
Oh, wow.
Destroyed my town center and killed like a ton of villagers. I had nothing left. So I hid my villagers in the corner of the map, gathered some wood, gathered some gold, and just kept hiding them, running them around. And I still remember this because Mista was casting this game. Mista and there was one other player who I forgot. And they were saying, I don't know why Magic never resigns when he's losing. He's wasting everyone's time. And they like said it over and over again for like 5-6 minutes, right?
I can already
I
tell
didn't know what
this
they were
felt
saying.
so good for you when it was over. I can already tell from the story it probably felt so good.
It was insane because he was on 2 town centers. He had like 40 vills as set, and I had like 4 Atlantean vills left, something like this. No army, and he had an army, right? I had no town center. I had like no towers, nothing, right? And I put down a counteraxe. I made some Terma. I caught his army a couple times out of position with a batch of Termas.
Okay.
And I made a comeback from that position. And I think that was the greatest comeback I've ever made in my life. And I think that's also related to what you were talking about. Like when your back's against the wall, I think 99% of players would have resigned there. And most players, I think, at that point, like there's no hope left, right? I didn't even know the guy was on 2 town centers. I thought he was on 1 town center, and I kept playing. But I think everyone would resign in that position. But I think my drive at the time was I just couldn't take a loss under any circumstance, and I just tried my best, and I won that game.
Okay. Well, that actually leads me into my next question. For the aspiring Age of Mythology Retold players, or people that have never even played Age, maybe they're coming into Age, right? Or just RTS in general. What skills are required, do you think, to become a top Age of Mythology player? And maybe these skills are separate from like other RTS games or other Age games, you know, or maybe they're, you know, they could be the same thing. You know, there's speed, there's memorizing build orders, but is there anything else you could think of?
I think there's always going to be all these little soft skills, right? These like secondary skills, like how well you are mechanically, how well, you know, do you learn? Like, do you have any like different strategies to learn and stuff like that? But I think the number one difference between Age of Mythology and all these other RTS games is the level of decision making required in Age of Mythology. I think is significantly superior to almost any other RTS game I played. And the reason why is because there's so much variations. Like you have completely distinct civs, right? That's number one. And you have
Age
god
of
powers,
Empires
which
2 is, most of them are pretty similar.
exactly. And Age of Empires 4 too. They're all, I mean, they have their differences, their nuances, but they're all the same units, right? They're just reskinned. I mean, most of them. Like you have Malians who have completely different units, but the majority of them are all the same. In Age of Mythology, you have like completely distinct units, so it's completely different. And you
Also
have
makes
god powers.
balancing a pain.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I feel for the
have,
dev team.
I think so. I think they're in. I mean, right now it's looking okay though.
Oh yeah,
right?
absolutely. I think it is looking great.
Yeah, and then you have like god powers which alter the game completely. You can be up one moment, and the next moment you're dead.
Yeah,
like for example,
games with god powers, leader powers, that they're game changers, and you always have to be in the back of your mind, like, you know, what powers do they have left? What do they already use? And now with Retold, you can use them more than once. That's a whole different thing now.
Yeah, and remember that game you casted with me and Hot Dog, right? Or Hot Dog or me and what's his name, Matrius. He used Lightning Storm like 2-3 times, right? Changed the course of the game completely. Same thing with Hot Dog. Like he used Hot Dog is actually Eric BR, really good player.
Okay. I think I changed the title of my video to that actually. I put his name up there. He asked me to.
Oh, and then he used Lightning Storm, killed my Son of Osiris, right? Like you're in 1 second you're winning the game, you're about to finish it, and then 2 seconds later this guy does a god power and just completely changes the game.
I want to say I was extremely upset watching the Son of Osiris. It's my favorite unit. I'm not gonna lie. It's my favorite unit in the game. It's my favorite thing in Age of Mythology. To watch him die to that power like that, got a little upset.
I was upset too, but you know, I was upset at the time, but then I won the game, and I was even happier that, you know, I came back from this moment, you know, and I came back and I won. And I think that sense of, you know, being like super behind and like getting unlucky for certain scenarios and coming back and winning, that's what makes Age of Mythology fun.
Gotcha. So rolling back to that, so what would you say, we'll summarize real quick for people. Top 3 skills to work on for Age of Mythology and become a top player.
I mean, okay, let's assume that you don't have, like, obviously Age of Mythology is not released yet, so no one has a chance to play. So if you want to improve and you want to be in a good position to be a good player in Age of Mythology Retold when it releases, I think the easiest thing for you to work on is your mechanics. Because somebody with good mechanics, no matter what, like you can have an inferior strategy, but if you're good at like producing villagers, in the sense like you have good macro and you know how many or sorry, that's a different point. Let's just say you're good at
Mechanics. Okay,
mechanics,
got
right?
one.
Like queuing units and whatnot. Number two,
Macro.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna put those in the same category, but we'll put them in two.
Yeah, I don't think micro is it's important, but I don't think it's super important in Asian mythology. I think macro is very, very important. So, you know how we were talking about mathematical players, right?
I think the faster the game is, the more micro is important, and the longer the game goes, obviously, the more macro becomes important. I think it's
That's true.
It shifts, right? But a 5-minute game has probably came down more to micro than macro. A 30-minute game definitely gonna be more macro oriented.
Yeah, I agree. But I also think that, like, if you compare Age of Empires 4 or you compare Age of Empires 2, the micro level required compared to Age of Mythology, it's going to be a lot more in those games. But it remains to be seen, right? We still don't know. I could be completely wrong about this, so we'll see.
Absolutely.
But I think macro is probably the second most important thing you can work on. You can work on it right now, just making sure that you're watching your resources and everything is flowing well.
Okay.
And those two. Number three, what can number three be? I don't think number three is something that's easily trainable, but I think it's the most important thing, which is your decision making, right? So, like, let's say you're playing Age of Mythology, the older version of the game right now, right? On Voobly or whatnot. I think you should.
And what's Voobly for people out there?
Oh, so back in the day, we had Ensemble Studios Online. That's where we played Age of Mythology, right? We played on an online server, but that got shut down by when Ensemble Studios closed. So there's all these third-party websites. It's not even just Voobly, but you can play Age of Mythology on one of those websites is Voobly, which you can play on. Another one is Game Ranger. A lot of people play on there. And the third one is you can play on Steam, which is Age of Mythology Extended Edition. There's 3 different platforms, but Voobly is the most competitive of the 3. So if you're playing on Voobly and you want to become a better player, I think you can still work on your decision making overall. Is just watch a replay and ask yourself, why did you do certain things, and then go back and think, like, can I have done this better? What was wrong with this? And just ask yourself lots and lots of questions and try to understand how your mind thinks and how you can do things better. I think those are the 3 key things to become a better player overall.
Okay. So what are your thoughts on Age of Mythology Retold, and like what are you most excited about, and like comparing it from the old game to the new game? What things are you looking forward to? What do you like about it?
Well, firstly, I like the engine. Like it feels so smooth compared to the old game, right? The old game is a lot slower in terms of, I don't know if it's frame rates or whatnot, but it just felt a lot slower. The second thing is, it seems like Retold is a much faster paced game, right? The old game is great, but it was a lot slower, right? You'd have less units, the population limit was lower, and then I feel like you would take longer to advance. You would have more defensive. A stronger defender's edge. Retold is a lot faster paced, so you can start the game a lot faster and start making moves. So that
I'm not gonna lie. For me, as a player and a caster, I'll be honest with you, I think it's a really good thing. I mean, maybe some people disagree. They like the slower pace of the older game. For me, faster pace means you're doing something more of the time than just sitting there and macroing like earlier on and stuff like that. I really, really like the fact that they sped it up. And there's another balance thing, right? I mean, the villagers are a little weaker, right?
Yeah, and I am one of those slower players, by the way. So
I know you're a macro guy. I know.
I'm a macro guy, and I still prefer this over the old one.
But that's a really, really good thing then, right? That means they're obviously doing something, something right there, because even the players that prefer the slower, version of the game, they like this version because they've been doing so well with it that even though it's faster, everything else just works so well that you're okay with it.
I agree. Yeah, for sure.
All right. So having said that, how do you think the remake is going to impact the competitive scene for the game?
I think this is going to be. I mean, this is controversial. A lot of people disagree. I have another Discord channel. You're in the other Discord channel with me with all the AoE 4 guys. They don't think that there's a chance in hell that Retold is going to be bigger than AoE 4.
Well, let's be honest, they don't want it to.
For sure, yeah. But I personally think it's going to have a slower start than AoE 4 did, but the more people play it, the more they're going to like it, the more they're going to introduce it to their friends.
Exactly.
And I think it has the potential to be bigger than in Age of Empires 4.
I think it
And
does. I honestly, I hope one day, and now wishful thinking, I hope one day it's big. It's as big as Age of Empires 2, maybe even bigger. I mean, again, that's extremely wishful thinking. But the thing is, this game, it has, there's no word for it. The fact is, this game has that X factor. It's got that crazy nostalgia. That it's just it's hard to explain. Again, I'll just call it the X factor because you look at it. It's while it is an Age of Empires game, it's not. It's got this. It's the same mechanics and stuff like that, right? You know, you villagers and the way you get economy and stuff's pretty much the same. But I think the mythological aspect, the god portion instead of civilizations, the god powers, right? The minor gods you get to choose from. It's not just you age up one thing, right? It's not just go age 2, age 3, age 4. It's you get to pick a minor god for each age you go up to. It makes for, you know, the games they're less likely to be repetitious. You're going to have different kinds of games. And now, having said that, you might, you know, you've been playing it for 20-something years. You're thinking, well, you know, they pick the same god usually anyway, no matter what, for their tech trees. But again, if the game is being supported, which it is, I mean, these devs seem to really, really care about the game. If the balance is well, that means instead of having just that one tech tree that you go down, maybe one game you'll switch to a different minor god when you click up, or to, you know, in a certain situation where, yeah, you should go this minor god, but if you go this other one, your opponent doesn't realize it. It's still good enough to where you can maybe throw your opponent off because they didn't expect you to go for it. And that's what we talked about earlier with, you know, being an instinctive player, where you go, okay, well, I only hit the scout. I know he's going to go this. He's definitely going to go this minor god route because that's the correct route, right? But if you don't scout it and they go that other route and they have the other upgrades or different mythic unit, and you don't scout it, you'll lose the game because, you know, hopefully the game will be balanced. That's the hope anyway, right?
I agree. I think that's you know, the funny thing is, like, every time I talk to my friends about, like, you know, the people I work with and people I meet on whatever, right, on a daily basis, and I tell them I'm into esports and competitive gaming, and they ask me questions, and they always know about Age of Mythology. I remember I worked at this one company with this one Filipino guy, and I told him, you know, I play Age of Mythology. He's like, yo, I used to play that game all the time when I was a kid. I'm like, what do you mean? You played multiplayer, single player? He's like, no, I'd go in the editor. I'd make like 20 Cyclopses and put them up against like 20 elephants and just watch as they flew.
I know exactly what he's talking about. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because really, back then, I mean, YouTube didn't even exist, right? You had to do those. You had to make your own entertainment.
That's true. That's funny. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I think YouTube was what, 2000. I think it was like right before, when it was in its infancy, right? So. Again, yeah, you had to make your own entertainment. You wanted to see something like that, you couldn't go to YouTube and type it in. You had to make it happen.
Yeah, that's true.
So it was really cool to be able to do that. I mean, you get to watch these giant battles unfold. It was like a little mini series.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I think, like, again, it's that weird core memory. I know people that barely play RTS games or hardly ever have, right? And but they've played Age of Mythology when they were younger or a long time ago, or they've given it a shot and they liked it, right? And I have friends that they're not interested in Age of Empires, right? I don't know what it is. They're not interested in it, but Age of Mythology, it's got the special units. It's got powers. It's got all these things that make it, I don't want to call Age of Empires 2, Age of Empires 4 boring. They're not. But I think that to someone just coming into RTS, having these other X Factor type things on top of the amazing gameplay that is Age of Empires, to make it Age of Mythology, I think that it's that little spark, you know, it makes you, like, you know, want to play, want to know more about the gods, the lore, the powers, what they do. You know, I mean, in Age of Empires 2 and Age of Empires 4, you're not going to watch an earthquake or a meteor shower. You know what I mean? Like, you're never going to see that. You'll see some cool things. I mean, let me tell you something. Even though you may have been writing the pros back then about the Titans expansion, I can't think of a better way to help sell a game like this than to just have a Titan pop up out of the ground, right? It's done building. I mean, that image alone, just that image in front of you is like, wow, this is probably a really cool game.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think it's awesome.
And it's like kind of like right now Game of Thrones is a huge hit, right? Like everyone's watching it, and it's kind of like
Game of Thrones. Yep.
Yeah, so like most people wouldn't just watch it if it was just a random medieval like drama or whatever, right? Without dragons and White Walkers and all this other
magic stuff. Man, it's got it all, and gods.
Exactly.
Different factioning gods as well. God of Light, and then the Seven and all the other stuff. But like, but that's what I'm talking about. It's got the X factor, man. It's got that mystique to it. And that's
Mhm.
what Age of Mythology has. I've never had, okay, let me tell you this, and this is going to be crazy.
Mhm.
Anyone I've ever shown Age of Mythology, even if they didn't play it or if they only played it a few times, none of them said they didn't like it. Not a single person I know said they didn't like it. I mean, some people will say, well, okay, I prefer Age of Empires 2 or I prefer Age of Empires 4 or whatever, StarCraft, whatever it may be, right? I've never had someone get on the game, the original Age of Mythology, and say, no, I don't like I hate this game. This game's terrible. I've never seen that. It's always something like, well, I prefer this to this or this or this. But I've never really heard bad things. I'm sure, again, I'm just saying that from my personal experience. I'm sure there are people out there, maybe even listening to this, that go, no, game's terrible, right?
Yeah.
You're right to your own opinion. I'm just saying, as compared to other games, I think it's a really good game. I think people just visually looking at it, watching videos of it, trailers, images, they're going to see it, and I think they're going to want to play it. They want to give it a shot. And I don't know if you know this, but I think this is true because, I mean, it's technically a Microsoft-owned product, right? The game. I don't know. This might be on Twitter or something somewhere. I would assume because it's a Microsoft product, it's going to be on Game Pass on Xbox, right? Now, I
have no
know
idea,
most of you pros don't care about that stuff, but what that means is this. A lot of people will get to try the game for free and possibly get hooked on the game, right? And I think that's good for everyone.
Oh, that would be amazing. Yeah, for sure.
See what I'm saying? I mean, if you get to try the game for free, you don't. It's harder to tell someone, "Hey, can we come try this game? It's really good." And they go, "Well, how much is it?" You know, you get to say, "Well, you have Game Pass." And they go, "Yeah, well, you try it right now, man. Give it a shot. It's free." You know what I mean? You'll get a shot to do that. Now, I don't. Again, future reference. I don't know if it's going to be on Game Pass. It might be somewhere. I mean, I probably should have done more research on that, but I assume it will be. And if not, it will be at some point if it is a Microsoft product.
Yeah, I think so too. And then the other thing was I remember when when the beta came out, right? Remember all the old players they played it the first time and they're like, this game sucks, right? And then they'll play it again and they're like, okay, maybe it's all right. And then they'll play it a third time, a fourth time, and they'll start getting hooked on it.
It's because it's not the game that they remember, but I think it is a better game, and I think that it's just because they've played it a long time ago, right? And they're jumping in expecting it to be the exact same thing, kind of like Age of Empires 2, and they did a remaster of it. It was barely any real changes, right? It was more graphical and a few things here and there, but this is a whole overhaul, right? I mean, it's an overhaul of the game. It's a completely different engine. There are different things balance-wise. Some units have different moves, period, like special abilities than they did in the original game. And so I think that obviously, like you said, they jumped into that first beta and they go, well, this is garbage. Like what's going on here? This isn't the way I remember this. But as they keep playing it, it starts to grow on them, just like you said, I think.
Yeah. That's the key that I've seen, or that's the one thing I've seen during the beta. It was so many people that just had this experience, which they didn't like it at first, and they just grew on them, and now they love it.
Yeah, that's the thing though. I mean, as long as I feel the game is good, as long as it's somewhat at least as balanced as can be, and it continues to get support, and the game looks good visually, it plays well. I mean, if it has those factors, I mean, you might be right. Maybe it will start out slower. But if it continues to, like I said, get support and it's a good game, it's not going to drop players, right? It will just only increase over time instead of losing players here and there with, bugs or mistakes and stuff like that. So as long as the game's smooth, I think that we're going to get a nice increase in players over time. I mean, we both could be wrong. Maybe at the start it does blow up, right? Maybe it just, because that's the way the internet works. That's the way games work. I mean, sometimes a game could just blow up overnight. It happens. All it takes is a few viral videos. People try it, and like I said, there are going to be people. I mean, obviously, maybe you don't think about this because you're 20 years into the game and all your friends are playing into it. But think about it from the perspective of someone who's never played the game. Think about it from the perspective of who's never played Age of Empires, right? If they jump into the game and it's playable and it's fun, well, then you've already garnered the main player base. All the casual people out there just want to sit down and have fun. Yeah, they may not play at a high level, or they may not jump into ranked and play 1v1s 12 hours a day like some of us. But they're going to get on the game. They're going to have fun on the game. They're going to play it. They're going to watch other people playing it. They're going to watch YouTube videos, tournaments, that kind of stuff. And that's good for everyone. As long as the game's fun at a low level and at the high level and competitive, right? I think that's the key here. I think it is. It can't just be one or the other.
For sure, yeah. I also think it's going to be... I don't think as a top player I have that much influence in terms of the game's success or failure. I think people like yourself who... When I watched your first cast, man, that was amazing. Like the way that you casted that game, it's I think
I'm so
casters
happy our
like you.
cameras aren't on, man. You're gonna make me blush.
I think it's the casters and the people who put out content. They're the ones that are gonna help grow this game, right? Like yourself. Keen Flame is a great
Yep.
caster as well. Boy, there's so many like big names. I'm probably forgetting a lot of them, but these are the guys that are necessary, the pinnacle of the community that's gonna help this game grow.
Yeah, I mean, for me, real quick on the casting thing, I don't know. I love that I don't have to like fake enthusiasm, right? Like everything you're hearing while I'm casting the game, when I get excited or when I'm getting confused, it's all genuine. Like I actually genuinely love casting the game. I love looking at the units. I love that I can zoom in as far as I can for certain things. I love watching the fights. And apparently a lot of people that are watching right now and people on my other YouTube videos, they, you know, they like it too. And I didn't expect that. I didn't expect people to be messaging me every day about how much they like my style of casting and all this other stuff. I just thought, you know, I'd watch some good games, throw them up on YouTube and see what happens. I never expected the amount of support. This community is so nice, man.
Because
Oh my
nobody's
God.
used to what you are offering, and I don't think I've seen it before. Like you're casting a game like you're casting the Super Bowl, which is
Every
awesome, right?
game
Like
is the Super Bowl, man. Come on.
yeah, it's great, man. Like you add a new flair, a new personality that I don't think is very common among casters. There are a few of them. Like I think Killer Pigeon has something similar to what you have in Age of
Okay.
Empires 4, but like I think for Age of Mythology, I don't think I've seen anyone with what you're doing. So it's great, and I think if you pair up with a lot of these other casters, they'll just
I mean,
have a lot more.
that's the
Yeah.
plan. Hopefully that'll happen here, especially when the game releases, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for that. So as you know, I'll roll back really quick. Isn't really part of the questions, but more a thing I just thought of. Say Red Bull, what's it gonna take for you and Red Bull, right? Let's say you get into Red Bull, you know. Let's say you
Yeah.
make it. Is there a spot where how to explain this? Do you have to get to a certain spot in the qualifiers, if there is one, or whatever it may be, or in the tournament itself, place 1, place 2, or I don't know how many people they're going to send or whatever, if there is. Is there a spot you have to get to for you to be like, okay, maybe I should start taking this game very seriously again? Or if you, God forbid, you get like rank 16 and get kicked out, will that be like a trigger to you maybe to try harder? Or will it be like maybe I'm not going to give myself that killer instinct anymore? Like what's your thought on that?
It's already coming back, and it's coming back because like I have some doubters, all right? Some people that are
That's good.
talking smack, and I love it. I love when I get that, right? They're like, oh, you definitely can't beat that guy. That guy's way too good for you. And when I hear that, it's just like music to my ears, and I love it. So
see, here's the thing, and I want to talk about
yeah.
that really quick. That's what makes you different, man. That's what makes other very, very elite players, not just in this game, but in life, different. Some people hear stuff like that and it gets to them and it brings them down. It does. It will break people down, and I understand it and I get it. Some people it'll drag down their mindset. They'll be like, maybe they're right. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with this negativity, and they'll just they'll push away from that spotlight, right? Where the very, very elite differentiate, I think, and this isn't really a skill thing, this is just more of a person thing, is when you're hit with that, right? When you're hit with those nasty messages, maybe they're jokes, some of them are jokes, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're hit with those, you're like, you take that as a challenge. You don't take that as negativity. You take that as, okay, bet. Just wait. Just wait and find out. Just watch me. Because that it fuels people, man, and it fuels me on the games I like to play as well. I mean, I get it. That just inner, how to explain it? It just makes your blood boil, right? But not in like a bad way, but more like just that intensity that you just get. It just gives you that energy to go, okay. You think that? All right. And then it's crazy because I know if you make it to like the top 2 or whatever it is, top 4, Red Bull, whatever, right? You're immediately gonna be thinking, as you're on camera, right? You're gonna be like, you're just like, yeah, you think I'd be here? You're sitting at home while I'm right here.
Yeah.
You're watching me. It's not the other way around, right? And it's the truth. That thought, I understand it fuels you, and that's awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, I already started, like, we're putting in extra shifts right now at work, trying to like finish all my work. So then when the game releases, I have like a week or 2 of free time. That's the goal. So I've already started preparing for it. I'm gonna try to do my best with the time that I have. I feel like I'm gonna be slightly disadvantaged compared to like the majority of the top players because I feel like they have more time than me, but
Yeah.
I'm still gonna give it my all.
So basically what I got out of that was, out of the question, it doesn't matter where you place, you're still gonna be grinding even after Red Bull.
Yeah, I'm gonna try my best. Even
awesome
after,
to hear.
let's say I fail Red Bull. I'm not gonna stop. I think Red Bull, to be honest with you, and I'm sorry, I know it's gonna sound anticlimactic, but I don't think it's a real tournament to decipher who's the best. I think it's the tournament that comes after Red Bull and the tournament that comes after that. That's who really is gonna indicate whether or not they're the best at this game. Red Bull, even if I win Red Bull, I don't think it makes me the best
Tournament
player.
after Red Bull, you say?
If there's a tournament, which I'm sure there will be.
It's funny you say that, but no. So, how do I explain this? So, from the old version to the new version, are there any changes that didn't happen that you would like to happen that you think could happen?
Like from the beta till like when the game releases?
Yeah. So we've played the beta now, and from the beta, you've seen the changes that have happened from the original game, right? Now, are there any more things that you'd like them to possibly add to the game itself? Any changes to the game?
I think for sure, like they should work on changing the UI. I personally, I've adapted to it. I'm okay with the resources being at the top now, but I think like a lot of people want the resources at the bottom. Like they need to work on like catering to the masses, not just giving one set model and asking everyone to adapt to it. I think that's something that they should work on. I think there should be some graphical improvements as well.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but I mean, like in the old game Legacy, you can see like when somebody gets like medium infantry or heavy infantry or champion, the whole unit itself changes, and it's not only cool from like a professional, like a top player standpoint where it's easy to read the units and make good decisions, but it's also fun for casuals and even for like people who are watching your cast.
Okay,
right?
for those that don't know, right now as it stands from the beta, what visual changes do we get?
We do get them, but they're just minor. So for example, let's say that you upgraded all of your infantry from medium to heavy, right? It'll change from bronze to silver, all your units, and it'll look really cool, right? And then when you go from heavy to champion, it just changes the unit to gold, right?
Gotcha.
And I know it sounds a little silly, but personally, I remember when I was a noob, when I was 12, 13, just playing casually, the coolest thing and a gratifying moment for me in the game was when I went and upgraded all my units to champion. And I'm like, oh damn, my army looks sick, right?
You're right.
So like I think like that's something if they were to change that I think it would be cool to add that into the game. Those are go ahead. Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't remember what the change is right now, but I'm sure you've seen it from my one thumbnail, my one video, or possibly you probably played it. The automatons, is that how they pronounce that? So they look really cool, fully upgraded, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
For me, I don't know. Those things look really, really cool. And they do look different from their original. So I don't know if it's what you're saying is for every unit, but I think you're right. For like all the basic units and stuff across the board,
Yeah.
the upgrades for like armor from regular to champion or veteran to champion, whatever it's called. I think some visual differentiators would be good. What would you want to see for the differentiator between upgrades? Like, what do you want the unit to do?
So it's already there. And let me correct myself. Myth units look amazing in this game, right?
Yeah.
Most 90% of the myth units look absolutely awesome. And like you said, the automaton, when you upgrade it, it changes visually. Even the Promethean, and that's great. That looks great. But the human units itself, right now, the indicators, it does change from silver to gold or bronze to silver, but it's a very small surface area where you're actually seeing it. I think they need to enlarge the surface area so it's very easily so it's easily representable on like on a higher resolution screen. Right now, it's there, but it's small. It's hard to see.
That makes sense. So for the community, how do you personally stay connected with the Age of Empires community as a whole? Even when you're taking a break, or when you said you were taking a break, I assume you still were, staying connected with people, right? Like people that you played with, or friends, or whatever. What was it? Just Discord, or what were you? Was there forums, or was there, what were you doing?
There are forums. There's one player. There's one person that's managing these forums. I think for over 20 years, this forum has existed. Since I started playing Age of Mythology, it's been here. It's www.rtssanctuary.com. It's not as active as it once was because back in the day we didn't have Discord or whatever, so everyone would communicate here. But now we have Discord, so I'm in a couple of different channels. I'm in Boyd's channel. I'm in the Keen Gaming channel. I have my own Discord channel as well. So I keep, me and all my friends are within some of those groups, so we keep in touch there. And I also just go to my friends, all the streams. Like if you go to an Age of Mythology stream, like anyone who's streaming, you'll find 80% of the people there. That's pretty much it.
Okay. So next question. By the way, we're getting close to the end. I know this has gone a long time, by the way. I know we said
I'm
20
enjoying
minutes,
this,
but this is actually insane.
Yeah.
I guess the time flew because it was, it was a pretty good conversation. I feel like at least
sure.
on my end. I don't know how it felt for you.
No,
but...
for sure.
What role do you think content creators and streamers play in, keeping the game alive and vibrant, and also, bringing people in?
I think it's the most important role. Aside from the developers, I think developers have obviously the biggest role to play, make the game fun and enjoyable. And the second most important role in the game to make this game great is for the content creators like yourself and all the other people who are putting in time and effort into getting these videos, these interviews, and what else out, right? You're bringing in, first of all, you're bringing in new players, I think, right? When someone sees the video of you casting this game with, like, for example, me and Matthews on Anatolia, and they watch it, they're gonna be like hooked on their seats, right? They're enjoying it so much.
That's all I ever wanted, man. Because I know, now don't get me wrong, there are people that are obviously better at the game than me. They know the game more than me for now. But I think that with my style of casting, that you don't even have to have played the game before. But having that, by the way, that game was, again, loved watching that game. I hate that it ended the way it did. No spoilers, people out there, but man, I want people to be able to jump into a cast, and then I can cast it in a way where, okay, they don't know what's going on, but they know this is important because of the tone. They know this is important. They know that getting this or losing this is, paramount to the game. They know that this leader power is absolutely destroying a bunch of stuff. Even if you don't know what that stuff is, it's doing a lot of damage. And I'm just trying to keep the players that have never watched the game before, even the ones that maybe have in the past, I want them to be excited about what they're watching. I want them to want to immediately after that game, they watch that game, to jump on and play themselves, right? That's what I want. I want players to be excited about the game, not just be happy that the video is over and happy about the result of the game. I want those things too, but I want people to be extremely energized and amped up to want to get on and play the game. Maybe try the things that they saw in that video or in that cast.
And you right now, what you just said, like you said, you're not the most knowledgeable person at the moment, right? And the fact that you said that, I think, it's key. It kind of factors into something you said earlier, is like, what's going to make you good at this game, right? Like what skills can you develop to be good at this game? And I think the most important skill, not only in the game, but in like even casting, is to just be honest with yourself, know your strengths and weaknesses, and the fact that you know what you need to improve on, and you said it right now, and you're honest about it. That's going to make you, in my opinion, one of the best casters once you put effort into it and work on it.
I'm working on it every day. I'm actually going back. I've been watching old videos of Regular Age Mythology, and I've been watching casts on that. I watch them every single day. Even if I'm doing something else like editing, I'll be having it in the background, because what I'm doing is, believe it or not, is as hard as learning the game is, the pronunciation of some of these names, and my God, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Here's the worst part, right? For things that I do remember, and the things that I had pushed into my mind as this is how you say it, because I'd said it that way before. It's not like it's new to me. I've been saying a thing a certain way for such a long time, but I've only been saying it to myself in my head. I wasn't casting the game back then. And now I'm saying it verbally. People are like, that's not how you say that. And I'm like, oh God. Oh no. And let me tell you something. Let me settle one of the greatest debates from all of my streams right now. How do you say the Celia's name?
Who's
Scylla. Okay, exactly. The water sea monster. How do you say it?
I don't even want to say it. I'm gonna
Say it
butcher
out loud right now. Do
I'll
it.
just say I'll say Skylla.
Skylla.
I've never said it out loud actually.
I
Now
have
that you
never
make me
been
think.
roasted about more things in my life than that one mythical creature. And you know what's crazy? It's not like they're all telling me to pronounce it one way, right? There are
Yeah.
like 6 different pronunciations of that unit that I have been told to say it as. And it doesn't matter which one I say now, it's wrong to somebody. Somebody's going to say it's wrong. So there's nothing I can do either way. There's nothing I can do. I'm wrong, apparently. So I've given up. And so people have started telling me to start calling it Nessie, like the Loch Ness Monster.
Oh, that's funny
So
actually.
instead
Yeah,
of
that's really
actually
funny.
saying the name that way, I can't be wrong.
Yeah, that's funny, man.
I think at one
Imagine-
point I called it a water hydra, right? So that works too.
Yeah, that's funny.
So last main question, besides unless you have anything else about the streamers and creators and what they need to do to help the game. Is there anything else you want to say about that?
I think you guys know better than me, man. I'm not good at this kind of stuff. That's why my content sucks. I'm not gonna lie. That's why I don't have a YouTube channel. I don't stream as often as I do.
Well, hopefully you
as I
stream
can.
more when I guess you probably won't. Leading up to Red Bull, you want to keep your stuff secret like the other top players, right?
I don't think you see the thing with me. Like I told you, I'm an instinctual player. I don't really have any secrets. I just play, right? I look at the map. I look at what he has, what he's doing, and I adapt and I play. That's not really much to hide from me, right?
Yep.
That's why you saw like during the beta and the stress test, I was streaming every single game. I did not care, right? And I probably will continue to stream even before Red Bull, but
Okay.
I don't know. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I don't have this question written out. I just thought about this. So let's just say, you make it to the top position of Red Bull, the top 2. Who do you think will be the other person?
I mean, right now it's
No,
looking like
don't give me any extra. Just one name. Who do you think it'll be?
Oh, for sure. I think it's gonna be Mista.
Mista.
Mista,
Okay.
yeah.
Now, if you weren't in the top 2, who would you like to see make it to the top 2?
It's a very good question. I think I would want to. I don't know. That's a good. I think Chemo. I would want Chemo there because nobody's seen him in real life, right? I'm curious how he is in real life, and I feel like, as a human being, I want people who I think are like really hard workers who work their asses off to accomplish a goal or to achieve something in life. I want them to succeed. I would prefer they succeed over a guy who's lazy,
Gotcha.
So, and I think he's the hardest.
Yep.
He's the hardest working guy I think in AoM. He plays more than everyone, and he works really hard. So I would want him there, and Mista is a very good close friend of mine. I met him in real life. I was at his wedding.
Wow. Okay.
I was gonna drive him to the church on his wedding day until I had some issues at the hotel, but I couldn't make it. But yeah, I would assume I'm his second main man. So like I would want Mista there too.
That's
He's
awesome.
a good friend.
That's
And
so cool. The mythology community is like that. That's really cool. And like I told you before, I mean, this is going off topic. I mean, this community, for the most part, at least maybe I'm just not deep enough into it. You guys are so nice compared to some of these other communities I've been a part of. I mean, I have never been embraced like this before. It's kind of crazy. There's
like
very low amounts of negativity overall.
the thing is, our community is very unique. I like if you go to Age of Empires 4 or something, I feel like there's a lot more. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not sure who you've ran into so far, but in the past, our community was highly toxic, right?
I mean, it happens.
And it's toxic, but it's toxic, I think, in a productive way. Like, for example, just giving you a situation with me and Mista, right? We were bitter rivals at one point. We were not friends. We would, like, talk trash to each other, right? But that rivalry turned into a strong friendship over time, right? When, we got to understand each other better and, the same things happening, I think, in Age of Mythology all the time. Like, the community is generally very small. There's not that many big tournaments where you're being administered on your mannerisms and your behavior. So people just say whatever they have to say to the other person, and everyone just became really close with each other, and there's very strong personalities that developed.
Now, because a lot of people have played, almost all of you, I assume, have played Age of Mythology, the original, for so long, and you're jumping into this game, and while it's not the same game, it is, obviously very, very similar to the original Age of Mythology. Is there even a chance for players that have never played Age of Mythology that are just, maybe they're just gifted in RTS to jump on this game and possibly make it to like the top? Maybe they won't win, but maybe over time they have a chance to battle their way, and just through hard work and talent they make their way to the top in a decently short period of time.
I think so. I think there's a very, and I was just talking to my friend Wham about this the other day. And Wham, if people are not familiar with, is a top Age of Empires 4 player. And he's telling me there's absolutely no chance of, coming into the game and trying to qualify for Red Bull or even be good after like 3-4 months, because we have such a large edge from playing the old game. But I'm here to tell you that I don't think that's true. I think this game is very different than the old game.
That's really
and
good
while
to
we,
hear.
Yeah, and we do have an edge. Like I know the units, I know the buildings, I know the god powers, but everything it just feels very, very different. Like you can't utilize the same knowledge in the same way, and it might even be a handicap.
The flow is different, right? I mean, like at certain points in the game, certain times, like where you're used to doing a push here or defending against a certain raid here, they don't happen at those. Like your like internal clock, right? As we talked about for like instincts and stuff, like this is going to happen at this point in time. Well, like you're right. I think because the game's a little bit faster, it throws off that entire internal clock. You kind of have to start over in terms of, okay, this rush is going to happen at this time. I'm not scouting it, but it's going to happen at this time now, not the time it used to be on the old game. I'm going to get hit by a completely different push from this god than I would on the original Age of Mythology, because, I mean, as we've discussed, I think, not in this interview, but like just in general, in Discords and all that, I think I mean, maybe you can correct me here, I think the myth units overall are more widely used and better on Retold than the original game. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, agreed, 100%. Like, I mean, we were talking about this. Egyptian before was a Boomy god, right? Or Boomy Civ, but now Egyptian is like super strong in Age 2, right? So I think like it's just gonna throw everyone off. The people who played the old game might even be at a handicap, or because they think certain things are gonna operate the way they used to, and they've been used to playing this game for like 20 years, and then they're just gonna be completely mind blown by the way that the new game operates. So I think, like, for example, Beastie Cutie said he's going to be trying for Red Bull, and he's a top tier player, right? In Age of Empires 4, I would say he's like top 2 along with Marine Lord, or in the past at least he has been, but he's going to be gunning for a Red Bull as well in Age of Mythology Retold. So I think the chance is there. I think they're very real. Like, anyone can do it. And we have an edge for sure, but I think it can be overcome with hard work.
I personally think, I mean, again, I'm going to assume real quick, I'm not alone on this. Because Age of Mythology isn't Age of Empires, I do think that myth units, right, in the game, heroes, myth units, whatever, I think they all should be good and relevant, right? I don't think that I don't think there should be build orders or late game scenarios where you don't need myth. I mean, maybe you might disagree on that. I assume you might, but I think that there should be myth units involved in most battles. I think that they should be a core part of an army. Even if you only have one for whatever reason, I think needing and having a myth unit in fights is important, especially not just for competitive play, but for visuals, for people that are watching, people that want to play and they want to build myth units and hero units to counter them, whatever. I think it's important that the myth units aren't just pushed aside in favor of just generic armies.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what you're talking about, right? The flair, the X factor.
Exactly.
That's what we need. Yeah.
Because I think that the original Age of Mythology, again, you might slap me for this, I think it, in the very, very most competitive scenarios, I think it did lack that X factor a little bit because you didn't see that as much as you do in Retold. I mean, you saw it throughout the games most of the time, but I think at the very, very high level, I watched the that tournament this past week. The you know what I'm talking about? The
oh yeah. Castle Cup.
And myth units were just not built that much, man. I don't know. It just didn't feel that. It did not as much as Age of Mythology Retold anyway.
For sure, yeah. And I think that's one good aspect of the game, of the new game, right? It's gonna add a lot of fun to it.
Yeah, shout out to Maiden for that tournament, by the way. And who
Maiden, I think Convent Count, right?
Yeah, Count, and then I think Maiden was a part. I think he cast it or played it.
Yeah.
So that's the Twitch stream I saw. That's my fault. Yeah, shout out to everyone involved in that. I'm sorry.
That was an awesome event. I watched most of it. It was great.
Again, like I told you, I mean, I was watching it mostly. I'm trying to learn pronunciation. I'm trying to learn names and stuff like that. I just want to be as knowledgeable as possible to go along with the enthusiasm of my cast. And also to back up, because I'm self-conscious, about 10 minutes ago when I was asking you who the who you think should be who you think will be with you in the top 2 if you make it, and you started saying other names, and I kind of shushed you for a second. I didn't want. I only did that, and I don't want people to get mad at me because I did that to you. I only did that because I didn't want a political answer where you would have been like, well, no, seriously, I didn't want you to be like, well, it could be this person, because maybe you didn't want to hurt someone's feelings. I wanted a direct answer. Who's going to be in the finals if you're there? Who's probably going to be there? That's what I wanted. And I know other people want that as well.
I don't beat around the bush. I just say it how it is. Like I lose friends over it, but I'd rather just give you a straight up answer.
I respect that a lot. I respect that people don't really do that much anymore. They kind of tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah, I don't like that either. I like when someone's honest with me. It doesn't matter if it's going to hurt my feelings or not. I'd rather just have honesty.
So next thing, we're kind of done with those questions. When it comes to the community, right? What is the most, not just from Retold, I mean, it could be, I guess, I'm assuming it's not going to be from Retold. What is your most memorable community moment? Not an in-game moment, community moment. Was it, I mean, the wedding thing sounds pretty important, but is there anything else?
Community moment.
Community moment. Could be something from a Discord, a chat, a video, a real life thing, a real life event, something that happened in a LAN party. Something.
You know, yeah, actually, I have a very interesting story.
Okay.
When I was a noob, and I told you I was 12 years old, right? And I was, I was just watching these top players, and I was amazed by them, and I wanted to talk to them and be friends with them and whatnot, right? So, there was this website back in the day where we used MSN back in those days. The younger guys might not be familiar with it, but so I would message these top players, right? Like I remember X-Hope, I messaged him, and I would just ask him for tips and stuff, and I found his email. I sound like a stalker. I found his email on one of the forums.
I'm trying to think, back then there wasn't Discord or anything, so I'm trying to think of like what you would have done.
It was the forums, right? So I found his email and I'd message him. But
are these the forums you talked about? These are the same forums that you were talking about?
No. This one is okay. This one's even older than that one. AoM.heavengames.com. But I don't know if it's still around or not. So
okay.
And then I messaged a guy named Kapach, and I don't know, most RTS players are familiar with Kapach. He's a top AoE 2 player, AoE 4, and he's going to be playing AoM Retold as well. And I would message him all the time back in the day, and he's probably annoyed, like, who's this like random person just messaging me all the time, asking me for tips and stuff, right? And he was nice about it. He would actually respond back to me and stuff too. And then the most surreal moment was when I went to Germany 2 years ago at Redbull Wololo. He was sitting across the table from me, right? This is 20 years later. No, over 21 years, around 20 years later. I meet the guy that I was idolizing back in the day when I was 12 years old. And we had like dinner together with a group of people, and it was just awesome.
So how, you said you were 12?
I was 12 when I was messaging him, and then I was 33 31 when I met him in real life.
It was like a 19 years in the making kind of thing. 20
It's
years.
insane, yeah. And he doesn't know who I am, right?
Oh wow!
He had no idea who I was, and I'm like sitting across from him at the dinner table.
You got the emails just sitting on your phone screen. You're like, you're ready to show him, like, remember these?
I'm like, Kapach, you remember that annoying 12-year-old kid that kept messaging you?
Yeah, well, I'm the goat now.
He's like, I'm like, yeah, that was me. He's like, oh, I don't remember, but I kind of vaguely remember, right? Like, and I told him about it, and then we just laughed about it. It was funny.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
It's just for things like that, they for something to start that long ago and you to bring it up, this much later. I mean, that's kind of like the story of Age of Mythology and Age of Mythology Retold, right? I'll give you my quick example. I wasn't the one that found Age of Mythology. My brother, it was his disc, and I watched him play it one day, and he built was it an Anubite? I'm not sure. I think it's what they were called in the original game, but that's what he built. He built one of those, and I was like, "What is that?" Right? I was so little, and I was immediately like, and I'm sure you remember back then, big fat gray computers, right? And I'm looking at this little screen, but to me it was like a portal into this other world, right? I'm like, because back then you're looking. Oh, let me tell you, real quick, my experience. Sitting down, my brother's playing this game, so I'm watching him. I'm just sitting in my little chair behind his chair, right? We're in our little damp cement basement where this computer's hooked up, and I'll never forget to the day that I die. I know this sounds crazy. That cinematic for Age of Mythology. You know what I'm talking about? The opening cinematic?
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
back then, that was like a little movie. It was magic. The animations, the sound, and obviously, today it's not, it's crazy, but let me tell you, back then, that was peak. That was absolutely peak. And then it showed, I think it was a Titans animation, right? 'Cause I think it was a Titan at the end. Yeah. So, and then you saw the Titan at the end, and I was just like, oh my God, what is this game? And then he started playing it. He showed me, I saw the Anubite, and then I was hooked. And like anytime he wasn't on the computer, I was on. I was learning the game, playing it. And even though I was a little kid, right? I think I was younger than you at the time. I don't remember actually. I really don't remember. I started playing it so much, and I never got like the competitive aspect. I started playing scenarios. I tried to play competitively, like I told you. I would watch I would look at the top guys, see what they did, try to copy them. I know this sounds terrible. You're gonna absolutely hate me for this because I don't think I knew about observing back in that game. So what I would do is I would host lobbies. I'm not even joking. I used to host lobbies and make the name like, I think it was like 1800, 1700 ELO plus or 2000 ELO plus free for all, right? I'd get the lobby full and then I'd start it and then I'd quit just so I could watch.
Oh my God, that's funny.
and I'd sit there with a piece of paper and I would write down exactly what they were doing, when they were doing it, how they were doing it, what they built when they saw what their opponent was doing and what they were. I used to write all this stuff down because I was intrigued. Like, how are they doing this? Like, how many villagers are they building before they go to the next age? Or how many villagers are they putting on wood, food, that kind of stuff. Because I was so young, I didn't understand, but I wanted to. I wanted to know so bad what it took to get good at the game. Now I never became a pro or anything. I started playing other games and stuff. But I mean, that was my like introduction to Age of Mythology. And my hopes, right, is either by catching a video like one of my casts or somebody else's cast, really energetic, or maybe the first time they play this game and open it up. I hope somebody else gets that feeling. Right? I want that so bad. I want someone to at least capture, if they just capture a fraction of what I felt for this game when I first started playing it, first saw it, they're going to be hooked. I'm telling you right now, they are going to be hooked. Because again,
I think so.
Yeah, like we talked, it's the X factor, man. There's not another RTS game that implements, the medieval, all this medieval stuff, plus you got the mythological stuff thrown on top. And it's like you said, well, you know what? I'll say it. This is the Game of Thrones of the RTS world.
Yeah.
We'll coin that right now. I'll let you do it. It's yours.
Awesome.
We'll say it is. It's the Game of Thrones of the RTS world. It's amazing.
That's a sick phrase right there. That's cool that you just thought of that right now.
We're gonna make it an event, man. We're gonna make it just like a thing when people are streaming this game or tournaments happen on weekends or show matches. People are gonna be putting this up in bars and stuff. We're gonna make it happen, man.
I hope so.
I really do. So that that's your interaction and all that. That's awesome. So, question about you personally here with tournaments and stuff. So, let's just say after Red Bull there is a tournament. Now, for you to play in a tournament, what is your I don't know, your minimal qualifications for that tournament for you to be intrigued enough to participate?
I'm not sure. It just varies, right? Like for Age of Empires 4. It just varies. I don't think there's one set. I played in tournaments for free back in the day as well, right? Like there was just like RTS League back in the day hosted by a guy named Blackadder. And I would just play in that just for glory, just for, to say my team was the best team.
That's back then. This is today.
Yeah, like today, like, I don't know. I think it has to be worth my while in terms of like, okay, let's give an example. Like for Red Bull right now, I'm going to have to take vacation days just so that I can practice, right?
Yep.
And 1 week of vacation, I only get like 3 or 4 weeks a year. So 1 week of my vacation is just going to be going just to practicing for Red Bull. So it has to be worth my while somewhat financially.
Okay.
Because I'm going to go back to work the next week and I'm going to have this big pile just right on my desk ready for me to handle, right? So it has to be, like I have to be financially inclined to be able to do it. And then second thing is there has to be like glory at stake. Like I think it sounds a little cheesy, but
no, I understand that. I understand that a lot.
Yeah, but like it's not about making a lot of money in Age of Mythology because there's other games that you can make more, like especially Red Bull. Like it's only a $10,000 prize pool. It's not about the money. This time, true. It's not about the prize pool. It's just about the competitive factor. Like I want to be the best. I want to prove that I'm the best. So if the best players are all playing in this one tournament, then I'm probably going to be playing in it as well.
What kind of tournaments are you interested in? Do you like one-day tournaments, weekend tournaments, multi-week, or do you like leagues? What is your preference?
I think all of them, all of the above. I'm down for anything.
Okay, so
I played in all of them.
what? Okay, okay. Let's just throw a hypothetical out there. Let's just say
Yeah.
there's a 16-man, 32-man. We'll drop it to 16 just for this hypothetical.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a tournament in 2 weeks. This is from today. There's a tournament 2 weeks from today. Say the game's already out. It's a 16-man tournament. You were invited. You don't know what the prize pool is. Could be nothing. Could be a few $100. Could be $1,000, right? But you don't know. Would you still be interested in playing it, even though? And by the way, it's a 1-day tournament. That means you're going to dedicate like a whole day to this. Would you even do that? Would you be interested in doing that, or would you not do that?
If the top 16 players are going to be there, I'm
If
probably
it's top
going to be
16
there.
or most of the top, let's just say like third best player, fifth best player, seventh best player, they don't play, for whatever reason. But like for the most part, it's an invitational. 16 top players play in it.
Yeah, I'll probably be there. But the other thing is like, it's not like I've been working a lot of the weekends right now, so
Absolutely.
I can't sometimes I can't dedicate that time, right? And then also I have a lot of like family things that I need to do, family projects and stuff like that. So like that takes a lot of my time, especially on the weekends. So sometimes I have to I make time for the game, but I would make time for the game if that was the tournament to be at, right? If it was
Okay.
it was a decent prize pool with the top
Do you
players
think
there.
other players will share that sentiment, other top players, or do you think that they're going to demand large prize pools for every single event? And, even if it's just a 1-day event type of deal, do you think that they're going to be okay with playing for an entire day or maybe an entire 2 days, maybe a Saturday and a Sunday for like a finals type of deal?
I think most players would, but I don't think all of them would, right?
Yeah.
Like for example, me, I have a pretty busy schedule, so like
absolutely.
it's hard for me to justify sometimes to like take one full day to play in a tournament with the prize pool of $100, and not all the best players are not there, right? Like if all the best players are there and it's a $100 prize pool, and it's like all glory is that like if you win, you're considered the best kind of thing, then I might be there, but it's I think the one good thing about Age of Mythology compared to like the other games is I think that most of the players are not financially dependent on the game itself.
Okay.
So that would lead them to play in smaller events, right?
Yeah. So
Whereas in
my thought process on this as well, in terms of that, is let's just say, hypothetically, there is only like a $100 tournament, and you guys do decide to play in that tournament, right? Let's just say it's a 1-day tournament, not a multi-week type thing. Obviously, I think multi-week tournaments are league type things. There should be a decent prize pool at the end because that's a lot of time invested and whatnot. Let's say this is just a one-off. It's gonna be, it's a long day. You got a month in advance, whatever it may be, and you do play in it. I think that's good for the community as a whole, because maybe that tournament will allow for maybe more sponsorships, more people that are interested in helping support the game in the future. They go, this is only $100. These players deserve more than that. Let's get a bigger prize pool for the next one. And I think that could be really good. At least, I think it's something that could be thought of, to be looked at when the game releases and stuff like that, if there are other tournaments. Obviously, there will be officially sponsored tournaments, I hope, from Microsoft, right, or whoever else, the dev team and all that, or the production teams. Like I guess Red Bull's not officially sponsored, but that's different. But you know what I mean? Like the big sponsor stuff. I think as long as the top players are still hopefully every once in a while participating in those smaller tournaments that will be streamed, YouTube, whoever's hosting it, and hopefully by more than one person, obviously, more exposure the better. I think by top players even participating in those, not just the really big events, I think that could help catalyst future and a higher quantity of bigger events, like more prize pools and stuff like that. I think if all the top players just wait for that one every 6 month or 3 month big tournament, that might not be a good thing for the competitive and esports scene side of it.
That's fair. Yeah, that's true as well.
But believe me, at the end of the day, everyone's hoping for like every tournament should be 10 grand, 20 grand. That's what we want, right? But we're just thinking about like the bottom of the stick, how hopefully the game continues, because like you said, this game could be a slow burner. It's possible it might start out low, and we have to just keep up the pressure on the game, keep up the pressure on the content creation side, the top players side, just keep the game going, even if it is starting out slower. As long as everyone's participating and doing their thing, doing their part, I think that the game's going to do really well.
Yeah, I think we all have to do our part. Like I said it before, right? Like the content creators and the devs that's the biggest role. But I think as players, we also have to sometimes do things that are not optimal for us, so we can have this game grow. And you're right about that. So that's something that I would attempt to do if I could.
All right, wrapping up here. What are your future goals in the Age of Mythology scene?
My goals coming up, I want to win Red Bull.
Yeah, you do.
I want to make it, and I want to win, and I want to start streaming more, and give back my knowledge to the rest of the community and help everyone get better and better and improve.
Okay.
Because I wish I was when I was younger, like growing up, if I had somebody like that just streamed and showed me all the things that
Would
are.
have been great, right?
Yeah, it would have been awesome.
I
Would have
wouldn't have had
shortened
to.
my.
I wouldn't have had to make a free for all lobby and resign to watch people.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what it is.
um, this isn't in the questions, but I just thought of another one. Is there anyone that you play against now? Not Mista, right? Not because they're the top 3 player. Is anyone you play against that you just find incredibly difficult to beat, even though that they're not maybe a top 3 or top 4 player? Is there anyone out there that you get into a game with and you're like, well, they're not top 4. Yeah, I gotta take this seriously. They're tough.
Yeah, like there's a player named Soup, right?
Okay.
And I don't think like from like a best of 7 that I would be too worried about playing him, but for the best of 3, he comes up with like really creative builds, like stuff that you never see other people do, and he can completely catch you off guard, right? Like
That's really
if
cool.
you're not ready for him, he's gonna get you, and he does some really wild stuff. So I think I would be a little bit worried about playing with somebody like that.
And let me tell you, from my perspective, I know a lot of other people's perspective, that's such a good thing. It means that there's not one right way to play the game, and I think that's so important for a game like this and RTS in general. The fact that you can do other things and still beat a top player by not doing the straight up meta, I think that's so important. It makes the game so much more dynamic, so much more unique, and so much more of a joy to watch and play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure, I agree with you.
So besides, I know the answer. Maybe I don't. Besides Age of Mythology Retold, are there any other games you're excited about playing, or maybe thinking of? Are you just straight tunnel vision, Retold, or nothing?
Yeah, straight tunnel vision, retold or nothing. Because I
Okay.
don't have the time to like venture off into different games. I have like work, family, and then retold. That's it. And then the gym when I have time. Yeah.
All right. Last question, and it's been an hour and 40 minutes. Don't feel like it, but
Are you
wow.
gonna trim this interview before you post it, or is it gonna go up like the whole thing?
I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. You know better than
I
me.
don't think we've had any gaps in our talking at all. I think we've been
I
talking
don't
for
think so.
literally an hour and 40 minutes, man. And
Yeah.
I don't think there's been any bad parts either.
No, I don't. I agree with you.
I mean, I'll go through it, but I don't think, I mean, people are going to be listening to this in the future. I don't think we've had a single bad part or any weird pauses or anything like that. I think it's been solid the whole way through. Now, I'm going to be honest. I mean, obviously going into this, I had to have somewhat of a script, but we went off script a lot. And I think that was the best part of the entire conversation. Every single time I thought up a new question or you had a story or something cool, I think that was the best part about this whole thing. And maybe the people in the watching in the future, maybe you guys, whoever made it an hour and 40 or however many minutes it's been, you guys can let us know down below. Did you want this trim? Did you not want it trimmed, depending on if I did or not? Did you like when we went off script from the direct questions? I'm on to do more of these. So
it's 2 people having a good conversation. I think that's important. I think one thing that I hope that Retold has is, and I'm just going to give you an example. Back in the day, StarCraft 2 used to have these like podcasts, right, where all the top players and some of the casters and stuff, they would get on a podcast, discuss issues with the game, discuss balance, and just talk about the future. that would be sick. Like imagine you get like that'll be awesome if you can get everyone to come on your show.
Oh my God, we should do it.
Yeah, for sure. That'll be. I
mean, here's the thing: most of the top players, I mean, you guys are all chill. I mean, I assume some of you guys have, rivalries and all that, but you guys seem all chill enough to where even if there is bad beef or whatever, you guys will be all, seem to be okay to jump into a call with each other and talk about the game. Because at the end of the day, I mean, it doesn't matter what you guys think about each other or anything like that. It's about, it's about the game. I mean, if the game's doing well, you guys are going to enjoy the game more. The game's going to, you guys will do well as players, content creators, whatever. I mean, that all starts with the game itself.
For sure. I agree. Yeah. And I think it's good to have disagreements. I mean, the 2 people have a completely opposing view, and as long as they can, talk about it constructively without getting like too heated up over it, I think that's a really good thing to have.
Absolutely. Now for the final question.
Mm-hmm.
You can think about this one for a second if you want. What kind of, or what legacy do you hope to leave in Age of Mythology? In the community as a whole? What do you want people to remember you for? What is it that maybe you want to complete? Maybe you've already done it, but what is the legacy you want to leave?
That is something that like to this day it kind of like bothers me, because I feel like I've been, and this is going to be a very egotistical thing for me to say,
Okay.
and I know some people might hate me for this, but I've been like rank 1 since I was 13 years old up until like now 33. Anytime I took a break from the game, I came back to the game. I took some losses and I went straight back up to rank 1.
Okay.
I don't think there's anyone with the record that I have, like historically, that has gone from like 20 years of being a top 1 or 2 player, right? And I don't think I'm still considered the GOAT. Or I mean, I'm considered one of the GOATs, but I'm not considered the GOAT.
You want to be that one. You want to be the GOAT.
I want to be the GOAT, right? And I think like this is very interesting because when I talk to other top players, right, during my prime, and the top players would say, you know, I think you're the hardest person for me to play, and I think you're the, like, I'll give you an example. Like, if I ask Chemo, who's the second best player, he thinks of himself as the best player, even though I disagree, okay? But then I ask him, who do you think is the second best player? And he says it's me, right? And then, but if you ask the casual AoM player who just plays the game, watches it, and, you know, doesn't compete at the very top of the game itself, they'll have differing names. They'll say, you know, Matrius might be the best, or Chemo might be the best, or Mista might be the best, right? I want to solidify that. I want the casuals and the top players to, you know, identify me as the best. That's my hope and goal in Retold, and that's what would drive me.
That's really, really awesome. Now, don't take this the wrong way. I kind of hope you don't get top 2 or top 3. No, hear me out. Wait.
Yeah.
Hear me out.
Yeah.
I kind of hope you don't. I don't want you to do badly. I hope you get like 4th or 5th, right? And that sounds they're 3rd, right? Or maybe even 2nd. I kind of hope you don't get 1st in Red Bull, because I believe, and I truly believe this, if you get 1st, you're not gonna care as much. You're not gonna have that dog in you that you're gonna have if you get 2nd or 3rd or something, right? I feel like your prime hasn't been seen yet. You think you're past your prime. I think if you get 2nd or 3rd, it's going to ignite something in you. And then post Red Bull, we may see the best Magic we've ever seen. I think it's possible.
That's 100% true. You might be completely right about that.
I think that could happen. Anyway, we're about to wrap up here. Real quick, let's make some people angry. Top 5 of Red Bull, who's it going to be? Go.
Top 5. Let's say, I think Mista, or for sure everyone knows.
Put yourself in there too. Who's number 1? Who's winning Red Bull?
Oh, obviously I'm going to say myself.
All right, who's getting 2nd?
Say Mista. I'll get
3rd.
2nd. 3rd, I think Recon.
All right, 4th.
4th. Matrius, I would say 4th is Matrius. I think. Actually, let me change that. I'm going to put Matrius at 3rd, Recon as 4th.
All right, and who's 5th?
Yes, I'll give it to my boy Chemo.
All right, sounds good. Man, I want to thank you again. Again, for those that are watching, this is supposed to be 15 or 20 minutes. I did not expect. I thought we were going to ask questions, we're going to get an answer, and it was going to be kind of robotic. But I'm going to be honest, I'm much happier with this result. I feel like this was way more organic than just asking question, you give me a quick answer, next question, next. This was great. I mean, we really got into the past of the game, your past, just your history of the game itself through your point of view, and I really, really enjoyed it. For those that are watching out there, again, this is IAmMagic. Please go follow him on Twitch, YouTube, wherever, whatever all the socials he has. If you want to plug yourself anywhere, you can do it now.
I just have a Twitch, twitch.tv/IAmMagic_.
Yeah, guys, go give him a follow, go subscribe to him there too. And yeah, do me a favor, look out on the channel in the future. I mean, hopefully we'll do some tournaments here, show matches. Hopefully some of those show matches will have IAmMagic starring in them against somebody. And honestly, I want to look back at this conversation in the future when I say this. I hope I get a crazy finals or a tournament finals or a show match, right? Where it's a competitive show match where it's Magic, right? Or maybe somebody else. I don't want to be biased. Maybe Mista or Matreus or Matreus. How do you say his name again?
I don't know. I could be butchering it myself.
I could be butchering it too. Anyway, but what I'm saying is I hope we get a finals or a big show match or something where it's a very well-known player, one of those 5 you just named, and someone you've never even heard of. Because that means that the game has room to grow. It means that anyone can get on here with the determination to gather skill sets that you mentioned, the skills needed to play the game, and they have a chance at going against and possibly beating the best players in the game so that they're not deterred from getting the game and trying that in the first place.
For sure, yeah, 100%. That would be amazing.
But yeah, I mean, is there anything else you want to say?
No, but I just want to thank you for taking the time for interviewing me. I haven't been able to actually talk about these things with anyone, so like the fact that you gave me a platform to communicate these things, it's really cool. I was able to like relive a little bit of my past during this conversation we just had, and shout outs to all the people that are currently keeping this game alive, like Legacy, all the casters that put in time and effort, and all the people.
Of course, let's shout out to all of them, man.
Yeah,
I don't think Retold would have happened, right?
For sure.
Without them, it wouldn't happen. I don't think it would have even gone into development if they didn't see that there was support for the game in the first place.
100%. So yeah, just looking forward to what Retold brings and being a part of the community, doing my best, and yeah, hopefully doing more of these with you. That was fun.
I hope so too. Maybe a pre or post Red Bull thing, depending on how that goes. But
That'd
yeah,
be amazing. Yeah.
All right, guys, that's gonna be it. Thank you so much again to Magic. My name is Yo Desla, and I'll see you guys next time.